What's going on, guys? I am SimpleSimon, formerly of the New 50 Noob, formerly of the Noob Rebirth. They don't know you're here yet, Mark. Welcome to the first episode of the Noob universe. This is it. This is the final reboot of the show. This show will go on forever until one of us die. And if I die first, Mark will continue the show, but if Mark dies first, the show will end because he's irreplaceable. Anyway, I'm here at Big City Comics with Mark. Say hi, Mark.
What is all this talk about death? Hi, Mark.
Being that this is the first episode, we're rebooting the show. We're going to talk about comic book reboots because it would seem only fitting. So let's do this. Quick shout out to my Siminions. Your support is greatly appreciated. If you're interested in exclusive members only videos, extended episodes of the Noob, and exclusive emojis, hit the join button to find out more about channel membership. But remember, your membership is not required. The best way to support the channel is by liking and commenting on videos. Perks. When I first, got into comic books and things like that, this is something I feel like is very confusing for people who get into comic books. So at the time, it was DC Rebirth, and I was hearing these things about the New 52. So that's where the idea for my show came from. I named my first series the New 50 Noob, a play on New 52, and then I changed it to New Rebirth eventually. But yeah, so when I first got into comic books, we were kind of in the middle of DC Rebirth. But a lot of people were telling me stories like Court of Owls and all this stuff. It all came from the New 52. Right. So it was all very It was all very confusing for me.
Your eyes were like eye wide.
I was like, what is New 52? I didn't get it.
No, you were like, what were comics? That's what you were.
When you obviously you got into comic books in the 80s or 90s or 60s?
Fuck you. What an asswipe, mate.
Just asking.
You're so rude. You're so rude to me.
80s or 90s?
Oh, would have been in the 90s, yeah. Okay. Because I went back and all my back issues were all 80s. Because
I'm trying to like backtrack in my head and think about the reboots that I know of. Because obviously, I guess before our time and things that we don't really are into are like things like the Golden Age, and then you had the Silver Age, and then Bronze Age. Okay. And I feel like they were all their own separate things.
No, well, there was never really a reboot like that's a reboot for the Silver Age, or the reboot for the Golden Age. No, there wasn't like an official. No,
I think there was because
who's the noob here, and who's the comic book guy?
Come on, guys, I've been in the game for many years now. I study the game. I'm a student of the game.
That's right. You're still a student, you're not a master.
I'll give you an example, right? So for example, when it comes to key comics and things like that, a lot of people talk about, this is the first Silver Age appearance of this character. I was like, that's fucking dumb. But like, they were definitely different. Like if you look,
I'm not saying they weren't different, but you gotta understand, when you're talking Silver Age, when they say Silver Age, it means it's a decade.
No, it's not a decade, it's a certain time period, yes. But comic books shifted and changed. See, I feel like the Golden Age and Silver Age are kind of not what we're sort of into. I think you are probably into like Bronze Age stuff, I would say. Do you want me to look up the time periods?
Do you want to do your show on your own? Do your show on your own. I'll see you later. Because it seems like you're the expert.
All right, tell me.
Looks like you're the expert.
Right, tell me then, Master.
Let's start with DC.
Yep.
Right? DC did the first reboot ever. It was the first reboot, which was
New 52.
Oh my God.
What?
See, and now you're an expert.
Just like you're asking, you're putting me on the spot. Go.
You like being put on the spot? Because they're usually used to it.
Keep talking.
Yeah?
Keep talking.
Crisis on Infinite Earths is the first reboot.
Okay. But did they reboot it by doing a story to explain the reboot?
Of course.
Well, that's... Okay, yeah, go. No, keep going.
That's what?
Keep going, Jedi Master.
That's right. You heard it here. It's on record. So when people say the first appearance of, say, like you use that example, this is the first appearance of So-So in the Silver Age. Because back before Crisis, it was just Superman was a different character, even though he was the same Superman, same Clark Kent, but it was just different. He was written for an older audience, he's still Superman from the 40s. Batman was still looked upon from that 1966 TV show, and so what they did, they rebooted it for that time a more older audience. No, I wouldn't say modern audience, but for an older audience. not the preteens that they were chasing in the 40s and 30s. This was more teenager and onwards. You know, Superman was written more maturely, not less hokey. You know, like stuff like this, and you know, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. You know, all that stuff was gone. John Byrne rebooted Superman from the actual get-go. When I say get-go, I mean like he did a miniseries called Man of Steel, and he did the Krypton exploding, everything. And Batman had a soft reboot with Year One, Frank Miller's Year One, and then it went on from there. So that's the modern age. That's classed as the modern age comic.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm getting it mixed up. So it's not just reboots, but I also mean like retcons. You know, retcons?
Yeah, I know what retcon is. Fucking hell. Yeah.
But like retcons happen a lot, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
And I think what I meant with the Golden Age, Silver Age, I think they retconned it during those times as well. They went from the early 60s, the Golden Age Batman was very kid-friendly and stuff, and then the Silver Age, it matured a little bit. And I think it just kept getting more and more for mature audiences.
Well, Golden Age, Golden Age would be the 1940s and stuff like that, right? Which was more of a crime book, and then it went into the more towards the.
I think Silver Age was still kind of what you were saying.
Yeah, and then absolutely, and then they by adding Robin, it went a bit more hokey and more kiddie and stuff like that. I think DC, because as Marvel don't reboot as much,
but they retcon, right? Sure.
They're not really. They don't really. They do sometimes, but. The way they number stuff, like, there's so many number ones, there's always a number one.
Every 3 months they reboot the series.
But it's not like they reboot the series, not the character. And the reason why they do that is to catalogue their trades. So when they release a trade, they do, Thor by Donny Cates. So that's that era. Even though it's still in line of the story, it's still in canon, right? It's just, that's how they catalogue their trades. Whereas, DC did the other major reboot was New 52.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because I guess the comic book community are divided. Some people loved it, some people hated it. I feel like now that it's come and gone, people look back on it with more fond memories than maybe at the time it was coming out.
It started off good. It started off great, New 52 was great. As it went on, it just got worse and worse.
I heard New 52 Superman wasn't that popular.
No, it started off good. Like I said, It's like they didn't have any direction. They started doing what Marvel did a couple of years ago. They started removing all the main characters. Like, no Bruce Wayne, Superman was depowered, Hal Jordan didn't have a ring anymore. Stuff like that. They started removing the originals. And it just didn't work. They just didn't know how to go. They just didn't know where to go from there. They didn't know how to come back from it. And that's where
so they just pressed the reset button.
Yeah, and that's where Rebirth came around, the soft rebirth. And that was, they got in Jeff Johns, and Jeff Johns said, this is what we need to do. That was a soft reboot. Whereas, New 52 was a hard reboot, man. It was like, there are some good elements with New 52, like just Jeff Johns' Justice League was great till the end. That was great. Every issue every story arc was great. That was a great Justice League book, one of the best. They did a lot of retconning, so they retconned the crime syndicate. They made them a bit more darker, a bit more villainous. I mean, New 52 Batman was great. They had a great creative team, but then towards the end, they just lost their way. I mean, the choices that were made, it was just ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. To have no Batman, have Batman, James Gordon in a mech suit, having the Batman police force, which was great, a good idea as a foundation, but then to put James Gordon as it was just that sucked.
But do you think sometimes they need to do some of these ideas? Because I mean, otherwise it's just going to be the same thing over and over and over.
I get it.
You like change. I mean, you've said yourself you like it when they try different things. Like, for example,
I do.
I'll give you a good example. A lot of people don't like certain story arcs or runs that I know Mark loves. For example, a lot of people didn't like the Bendis Superman. That was copping a lot of shit. Mark loved it. Because you said to me, I remember you saying that it was different. It was something different for once because you were sick of reading the same thing.
Which is true.
So don't you think, I mean, they kind of have to gamble in a sense, why don't we try this?
Yeah,
I mean, some idea is a little bit too far-fetched.
Well, unfortunately, with Bendis' run, they didn't let him fill it out because everything is based off sales. So if the sales aren't working, then they're not going to continue with anything. Is
it that? Or is it that the writer gets to the point where it's like, I don't know how to fix this.
No.
Here you go, guys.
No, it's all about the sales, mate. The New 52, yeah, it was a lot of hit and miss, absolutely.
I joined when Rebirth was kind of not over, but I think they might have still had the Rebirth logo at the top, and then they kind of got rid of it.
Correct.
But I wasn't there when Rebirth first started. So what was I guess the response like? Because obviously you didn't have the shop then, I don't think.
Rebirth, yeah.
When it started.
No, not when it started. No,
when it
I was
started,
probably about 20 issues in.
But what was like the word on the street?
Well,
for people when Rebirth was happening, about to happen, and about to, like, it's, for example, like when they announced DC Future State, a lot of people were like, why are they doing this? What was it like back when Rebirth happened amongst the comic book community?
Just another reboot. That's what it was. Another reboot. Like, why? You know, so.
Well, Future State obviously is a reboot that happened in my time, which was more of a time jump. But I think at the time they were sort of pitching it like, this is gonna forever change the DC universe, and I think they saw that it didn't work, and then they're like, oh yeah, no, that's just like another yeah.
It just fizzled
world.
out. Yeah, it absolutely fizzled out.
But that's really a letdown. Like, just it makes you lose trust in like the company.
Absolutely.
Like, you guys don't even know what you're doing.
Absolutely. I always say this, and you hear me say this all the time. If they don't release new stuff, they don't do different things, then that company will die. That's how they see it. Not that I have to agree with it. Marvel especially, they have to constantly release new stuff because people love new stuff, love that #1, you know, like and with DC recently, they're relaunching the whole Elseworlds brand, and now they're doing a whole Absolute Universe, which is different from the regular universe. They're sort of like seeing what Marvel are doing with the Ultimate Universe. If they're a comic book company, if they're not always chasing and creating, then they're just not a comic book company. So that's why they do it, and yeah, why not? Do it. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. Oh well.
So I feel like this is how I picture that a comic book company like DC or Marvel should work. And I don't believe, and look, maybe it worked like this once, because I thought this because of something I heard Dan DiDio say, who used to run DC, right?
Yeah.
So I asked Tom Taylor, I was like, is this how it works? And he was like, no. But basically, I would imagine when they're doing something like a whole new retcon, reboot, whatever it be, they would call in all the main writers, creators, and have a meeting and say, okay, so what was your plan? What was your plan? What was your plan? We need to make this work because this...
That's not how it works.
I know, but don't you think that's how it should work?
Of course, that's how it should work. The creatives should be in charge of creatives, and the producers and the editors should be in charge of that, of the editing. And the higher-ups, executive producers, should be in charge of executive producing, the money. That's what an executive producer is, the money guy. A producer is the liaison between the director and the production team. Whatever needs to be done, like if the director says, I want a wall there, get it done. The producer goes and gets that done, right? And then the producer goes and gets, oh, I need more money for that. So that's what the producer does. And it's the same with comic books. If the writer says, I want to do this to this character, he has to get approval first.
I feel like some writers don't give a shit.
No, of course not. I mean, look at, but a lot of the time, this is a different environment now. There's so many comic book companies. There are a lot of indie books that have creator-owned systems. A good example is Tinian, right? When Tinian did Batman, you can definitely tell the switch between what Tom King was doing, which probably had a bit more creative freedom, right? And sales dropped off. They got rid of Tom King and they brought in Tinian, saying this is from higher up. This is what we want. Yeah, but this is what we want you to do. We want you to write that story.
We need you to make it go from Tom King's Batman to Future State.
Tom King is a good writer, and he writes with a piece of red string that you have to follow, all these red strings. But whereas Tinian, he's a great writer, but he knows that he doesn't own that character. He understood that. But if they're going to pay me to write for this character, then I'll do it. You know, and he put his own flair in it. He created his own characters. You know, in that he did a whole run of characters that he created. So good on him. But you can definitely see the difference.
It was in Tom King's run to where Alfred died, right?
Yes.
Do you think that Tom King had to go to DC and say, "Hey guys, I'm going to kill Alfred"?
I don't know.
Is that okay?
I don't know.
He just did it.
I find
because by the way, Alfred's dying. We don't need him anymore.
I find that Tom King probably had a little bit more creative freedom, and whereas Tinian probably didn't.
I feel like Tinian definitely was giving a task. Hey man, we need you to do this. We need you to the character.
Yeah, we need you to pick up sales. We need you to pick up sales. this is where we want the character to go.
Yeah.
We want you to write that story, and you can, in between, you can do whatever you like.
Yeah, you can create all the characters you want.
I always say from 85 to about 95 was the best era in comics. Like it was the golden era. There was no shareholders, there was no boards, there was no the head of this and the head of that department. It was comic book companies owned by studios, you know, whatever that creative studios that said, we don't care what you do. They said this to the creatives, we don't care what you do, just sell us comics. And it's evident, not that I know that for sure, but it's evident in what came out of that period from 85 to about 95. The shitload of creatives, characters that just shone in that era. It was unbelievable. Towards New 52, you can see it was getting stale because then, you know, movies were starting to get made in the 2000s, and, you know, people had more, the higher ups saw how much money that we could make, so they got more involved in the cross-media stories, and then it just got diluted, so they had to reboot it because it just stories were going nowhere.
All right, so we're a bit short on time today, so I'm going to wrap it there, but before we go, moving forward, obviously, this is the dawn of SimpleSimon.
So what's next for your reboot?
Well, right, because, you know, it went from the New 52 to the NOOB Rebirth to DC Universe, right? Mm-hmm. It's almost like fitting the way I've transitioned. No one's ever mentioned it in the comments that my names on my shows are so clever, but
Simon, you're so clever.
I know, thank you. At least someone recognised. If you guys enjoy this and you want more, channel members do get extended versions of the NOOB, and that won't change. You're still going to get extended episodes of this.
That's right. Also, you get to see stuff like this.
Lickworthy. The other thing I want to start doing with Mark, a more podcast style one where he's at home and we probably do it live. I'm just deciding whether or not I want that to be part of the NOOB universe or make it its own literal podcast. I think I'm leaning toward the podcasting, calling it the NOOB Universe Podcast, where we do maybe like an hour episode where we can just, same idea, but we have more time to just banter, I guess.
We can talk about. We'll talk about it off camera. Don't worry, we'll surprise you. Don't worry. So that's the plan moving forward. So Mark's not going nowhere. Like I said, when I die, he'll continue on with. What are you talking about? All this dying stuff. No dying.
All right, no one's going to die. We're going to live forever. We're going to get to episode 1 million, and Mark will be so old by then. So
I'll be so old.
Make sure you guys give the video a like, leave a comment, and until next time, say bye, Mark.
Bye, Mark.
And keep it simple.